Okay, so a few more housekeeping. Of course, we want to make sure that all the presentations can be heard clearly. So we ask that everyone remain on mute throughout the presentations and the Q&A unless you are speaking. Um, as I mentioned, the best view will be active speaker. We will be spotlighting everyone, but of course, you can also look at the gallery view. On behalf of the Kamara Arts team, I would like to thank and welcome all of you for joining us today for a very special Kauma Brief Encounter, or KBE as we call them, celebrating the release of Ailey, the film. Our signature KBEs bring together creatives from across the globe to exchange ideas, cultivate collaborations, and to deepen artistic value. We're very excited about the four talented artists that we have on our panel tonight to discuss the film and Alvin Ailey's impact on their careers in the dance world at large. Just going over what to expect for today, we're going to start with a screening of the trailer for the film, and then we will hear from each of our featured artists to talk about their personal experiences with the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater Company and Alvin Ailey's choreography. And then we'll open up to a wider discussion Q&A with the audience. So during the presentations, we encourage you to use the chat function, leave your comments and your questions there, but there will also be a time to interact with the panelists later on. Following their presentations, we will discuss two key provocations that came out of the film, which you guys will get to see tomorrow when it's on demand and it's released. And so we'll have that discussion. And of course, as I mentioned, we'll open it up to all of you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mercy to introduce our collaborators for this event and to present the trailer. Over to you, Mercy. You're on mute, Mercy.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Really excited to see you here. It's exciting to see everybody in the room. And obviously, as Heather said, we will aim to for participants to share their experiences of Alvin Ailey American Dance Theatre and discussing the connection, the practice, the research, as well as the influence and impact that this organization brings to the dance ecology in the UK and globally, of course. So we have a few global people who are from the global area and the regions as well. So really glad that you're all here. The four speakers, of course, with their connections in the communities across the regions, will kickstart the discussion and share their lived experience and connection with AADT. We have a couple of provocations, as Heather said, which will help us to focus on the film. And some of you have seen the film or the Q&A. So feel free to share your views in the chat room as much as you can as we continue to have the conversation. So going on to introduce the collaborators, we, the Kauma Arts team, which is Heather, who's just been speaking, and Jess, based in Vancouver, and myself are delighted to be supporting Dark Matter and Dogwoof in promoting the film and spreading the word across the regions here in the UK. So just briefly, Dogwoof is the leading documentary film distributor in the UK, and they are regarded as the foremost documentary specialist brand in the world. And Dark Matter, I believe we have Michaela in the room, who is the founder, is a collaborative marketing agency that works to connect Black audiences with ambitious, creative cultural projects. So this conversation is about creating a buzz around the beautifully crafted film Ailey. So as with all KBEs we do, we network, we celebrate, but we focus on a topic. And so Ailey is at the heart of the discussion. A bit about the film. The official synopsis is Ailey is a sensorial, archival, rich story that traces the full contours of this extraordinary artist's biography and connects his past to our present with an intimate glimpse into the Ailey studios today. where we follow innovative hip-hop choreographer Rennie Harris as he conceives a new dance inspired by Ailey's life. Using never-before-heard audio interviews recorded in the last year of his life, we experience Ailey's astonishing journey in his words. And that's true to the film, actually. I've seen it, it's fantastic. Ailey opens in a small independent cinemas across the country and on demand, Dogwoof on demand, from tomorrow, January the 7th. So you can visit aileyfilm.co.uk to get the tickets. And we will also share a list of where the films are showing across the region. So that's going to be in the chat room. So you'll be able to do that. So we'll have an opportunity to see the film trailer now before I introduce the speakers of today. Now over to you, Jess.
Do you feel as though you had to sacrifice anything to stay in dance? Everything.
The Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater is one of the most important contemporary dance companies in the world.
People were just, oh my God, they'd never seen anything like it.
Choreographers start with an empty space, a body or two. When you say carve the space, I love creating something where there was nothing before.
I was born in the Depression, 1931. Rural country, tough times.
When I was 14, I discovered the theater.
And it touched something in me. But there was no bodyguard.
Alvin entertained my dreams that a black boy could actually dance.
Being able to say through the choreography, I am, it transcends dance.
I had my own ideas.
Not just to do a step, but to feel something.
He was working at a feverish pitch, totally immersed.
People say, why is he doing that now? If you're a black anything in this country, people want to put you into a bag.
This is what he took up as his crusade. Alvin's protest was on the stage.
And I want to feel all the anger, the sense of cursing at the outside room. I wanted to do the kind of dance that could be done for the man on the streets, the people, that it was part of their culture.
And that it was universal.
Okay, that's just a short glimpse of what to expect of the film. If you haven't seen it, please go and see it. It's so beautiful. It's great. But today we have 4 speakers in the room and they have that lived experience. So they're going to share what they think, their experience, and also aligning it with what they think. So starting with Ianthe Mellors, she says, all I've wanted to do is to move to New York to dance. I'm now here and living my dream. I was 7 years old when I saw a clip of Revelations. It was amazing to see dancers that looked like me on stage. That's Ianthe, who will speak first. And then we have Hopal Romans, who says, my connection with Alvin Ailey was as a merit scholarship student at the Ailey School back in the 1980s. A lot of buzz was generated when Mr. Ailey was in the building during company rehearsals, and often he would pop in and watch our classes and student rehearsals for studio sharings. We also have Bafana Matea, who was born and raised in South Africa, got a scholarship from Judith Jamison to study in New York for 2 years. And he says that that was my introduction to contemporary and a viewpoint of it from an African American perspective. Last but not least, we have Kamara Gray, who says that I attended the Ailey School when I was 18 years old, traveling from my home in Sydney, Australia, where I grew up, to spend the summer in New York. I more recently organized, I organized the AYD 100 project in September 2019, which involved inviting 100 young Black dancers to watch the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theatre live at Sadler's Wells Theatre, helping these dancers to see the Ailey Company, many for their first time. So please welcome our speakers, starting with Ianthe.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year and happy Thursday, everyone. So my name is Ianthe. As Mercy said, I was 7 when I first saw a clip of Revelations. I've actually written down lots of quotes that really stuck out to me in the movie. And quite funnily enough, I didn't realize the majority of them are actually in the trailer. So you would have heard some of them. But what really stuck to me was that Judith Jameson says that what really stuck out to her with Revelations was the excellence and the power in the dancers, and the strength and the fluidity. For me, as a young Trinidadian English dancer taking ballet classes from a very racist white ballet teacher, it was incredible to suddenly see that on TV. And ever since I was 7, all I've ever wanted to do is come to New York and dance. So I did my modern dance degree at Middlesex. And just before I was about to graduate, I applied to do the Ailey 1-year program. However, as luck would have it, I was then in a car accident and couldn't dance for 2 years. And I know that my mum's on this call, but I don't think she knows this. I used to watch every clip I could on YouTube just to remind myself that I want to keep dancing and why I want to keep dancing. And the car accident happened in 2011. 2013, I was better. I moved to New York and I started dancing again. Didn't go to the Ailey school because I had to relearn everything from scratch. But what I could do was take open school classes. So they were still doing that my first year in New York. So I took classes with first years and second year at the Ailey school. And it was just incredible. One thing that Mary Burnett said was, I am. And that's a theme that she said comes through all of Ailey's pieces. And that for me was huge. That she also says that the work teaches you to stand in your own being, no matter what, and to really be who you are. And you learn how to be who you are by watching the pieces. And every season I was watching, I think I went 2 or 3 times every season, just to remind myself while I was in ballet class, unable to straighten my legs because I was still retraining everything after my car accident. And that's really what gave me the fire and the passion to stay dancing and to keep trying. And it's been 11 years since my car accident, and I'm now on my 3rd artist visa, living and dancing and performing and creating in New York. So I guess for me, just Ailey's work is inspiration, it's drive, it's representation, and it's, I guess, my lifeline that brought me back to dancing when I genuinely thought I wasn't gonna be able to dance again. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Ianthe. Now over to Hopal.
Oh, Ianthe, that was powerful. Thank you so much. You said that lovely line, I am, which is definitely a line that I think a mantra for all of us. So everyone, thank you very much. Happy New Year. But before I start, I think it would be remiss of me, even though Ailey is at the heart of this conversation, but it would be remiss of me to not mention and to honor the memory and friendship of a very good mentor and friend of mine over a number of years, Don Martin. Because whilst I was a student at the school a very long time ago, I think I really got to know Don Ailey through Don Martin. So I just want to give thanks to his memory because he recently, at 90 years old, transitioned in January. So I just want to put that out there because by knowing Ailey, you know Don at the same time. So give you an idea. So it talked about his kindness, his generosity of spirit, his passion, his warmth, his fierce guardian and teacher of the Lester Horton technique, a real professional, consummate professional. And I think through the conversations we had, because obviously they were friends back in the day, we had really candid conversations, and Don used to say to me, Ailey was the creative one, I was the teacher. So with that framework, I think that's just good to set it up there, just to honor the memory of Don, because without them, I think, well, anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But in terms of my experience with Ailey, I have quite a visceral response when I saw the film, because the way that it was filmed, it drew me back into that place, certainly when he was alive, when I was still there as a student. And as I said in my introduction, there was definitely a buzz in the studio when he came into class. He used to come in and sit and watch rehearsals. He came in and sat on some of my rehearsals that we did with some of the student choreographers as well. So my journey started much earlier in terms of my training in England, but that's a whole other backstory, because I want to keep it with an Ailey focus. But certainly Ailey as a person, I really did see the warmth. He really was generous. He had time for, he even opened the door for me on a couple of occasions. It just kind of was a testament to the man as well. So that's something to really to acknowledge. My journey started at the Ailey School. I suppose back in the day, I was an independent student in terms of crafting my classes at the Ailey School. And I was lucky enough to be awarded a scholarship, so I stayed on. And I think that was a really immersive experience for me, because I got to kind of work with quite a lot of the company members in terms of when they were teaching. I had an experience of actually really honored to be selected to be part of the annual memorial experience at City Centre, which happens around the Christmas time. So I really had a chance to dance Memoria. And in the film, he talks about Joyce Trisley, which is what the piece is based on as well. And there was nothing like him just watching the rehearsals, just to kind of give you that little extra edge. Whilst I didn't know him, well, obviously I knew him because he was, you know, this figure that we see in the studios. But you really got a sense of when he spoke, you felt his power, you felt his magic, you felt his presence, his history that's really emanating through the performance as well. And that's something that I took on in terms of my own journey, in terms of the journey and the legacy for myself, which I know that we'll talk about later. But what it did, it put me on that pathway that I knew I'd had a start in, certainly back here in the UK. But it led me in terms of where my current practice is, as through dance education. And whilst I actually came to dance education through the artist route, I call myself the artist as an educator as well, and the things that you can learn from your craft and how you can give to certainly younger generation or even contemporaries and peers. Because I think dancing, whilst it, you know, when you're starting out, you start up quite young, but I think wherever we are in terms of our entry points, we are still moving our bodies. And that's the route that I took, certainly going through dance education as well. I mean, there's a lot to say, but I'll just keep it nice and small so that the other panelists can have their opportunities to share experience. But my experience was wonderful. Certainly meeting Judith Jamieson when she started the Jamieson Project. That was an exciting time. I had a chance to audition. I didn't get through, but it didn't matter. I was in the room. That makes a lot. That means a lot to me. But I'll hand over to everyone and keep the conversation going. Thank you.
Thank you, Hopal. Thank you. Now over to Bafana.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Yes, I was, my journey with Ailey really starts when I was in South Africa. So I was quite lucky enough that I had a fabulous English teacher that gave me a chance to learn ballet. And that was really my breakthrough in a way. I was gonna be a ballet dancer. And it was by chance that I went to Johannesburg with a friend, and apparently over there was Ailey audition. And I remember going in, and there was incredible intensity in the room. I remember Masasubi Chaya was there and Judith Jamieson was there, and then going in and doing the audition. And luckily, I got one of the scholarships to come and study in New York through Miss Judith Jamieson herself. And that was really my first, I would say, experience of Ailey. I've not even seen Ailey themselves perform. I just had a chance of landing in a studio where the audition was. And that evening, after I got the scholarship, obviously, and that evening I was invited to come and see Ailey itself perform on stage, and they were gonna present me with a scholarship. And that was the first time I glanced my eyes on these performers. And I remember just literally in my head saying, that's it. I'm never ever touching ballet, because now I have found my calling. This is the direction I want to go to. And hence it's the time in South Africa when of course, seeing Black dancers on stage, but Black dancers with that excellence, you know, that really brought everybody in, whether white or whether Black, that excellence spoke to everyone. And that was really one thing that had made me, it made the whole experience very special. And I remember moving into Ailey School, and it was in the old buildings on I think 55th Street, I can't remember, and 10th Avenue, I can't remember clearly. No, before the new building. And it was a very modest, humble building, but it's the energy. I remember being met first by the drums, because I think there was a Houghton class happening at that time. And I remember being met by the drums, and there was a feeling of home in a way. And Ailey, for me, the school was, gosh, I mean, meeting Judith Jameson, working with Miss Jefferson, and working with the dancers through Ailey, from the Ailey company, just being in that environment really taught me to the importance of consistency, the importance of hard work, the importance of passion. And because it oozed out of everything out of them. You know, when you see them on stage, you can see the passion oozing out of their pores. At the Ailey School, you kind of had the sense of that. And I think that's one thing that I'm constantly trying to draw with me everywhere I go. Even if I'm in the studio, I'm drawing the passion. You know, there was one excellent teacher when we were there called Milton Myers, and he was one heck of a Houghton teacher. I mean, but apart from it, it was that passion. And Milton Myers worked with Ailey, and all these glimpses of these people you saw and felt, you can sense that spirit of Mr. Ailey. I didn't know Mr. Ailey, obviously. It was much later in '99 when I got to New York. But you can sense all of that within the teachers and within the people that had embraced or have been in the same room with Mr. Ailey himself. And even with, I mean, even Miss Jamison, when Miss Jamison was in the school, you can sense the anchor of that woman, that the importance of, and the passion, even when she walked and when she embraced you, when she said hello, you know, everything was just big. Everything was just gigantic about it. And I think that's one thing that it kind of took me by surprise. And it's one thing that I've been trying to emulate all the time, to be grand as much as I can, and to live in passion and embrace it to the fullest, whether it's considered loud or whatever. But really to kind of go with it, and in many ways it has influenced my teaching, it has influenced my dancing, and it has influenced me as a person to embrace my Africanism within everything else that comes with the world of contemporary jazz and improvisation, ballet, all of that. Yeah, that's my story, and that's my connection with Ailey. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bafana. And last but not least, over to Kamara.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Mercy, for having me here tonight. So I just wanted to share my experience. I'm just going to put my timer on as well, because, you know, I can talk a little bit, but so I'm going to try and stick to the time. But one of the things that there are a couple of themes that I really drew from the Ailey documentary, and one of them was his global connections and the impact that he had globally and that the company had globally. And I thought it was quite fitting that one of their first tours was to Southeast Asia, with them going to Australia as one of their first places. So as Mercy said in the brief biog, I grew up in Sydney, Australia, and did my dance training there. And, you know, I had a wonderful experience there, but you don't really know something that you really need in your life or something that's missing until you experience it. So I kind of learned about Ailey when I was about 16, and I was determined to go to the school. And when I was 18, I auditioned for the summer school and I was offered a place there. So I flew to New York from Sydney, and my very first lesson, you know, just going into the space, Ailey talks in the documentary about how the technique kind of has an energy. He says it had a feeling, it has an essence to it. And I really got that when I was at the Ailey School. And for the first time, I had a ballet teacher that looked like me. And it really had such a profound impact on me because I'd studied ballet since I was 3 or 4 years old, but, you know, never really enjoyed it that much. But this time when I had a teacher that looked like me and there were dancers around me, you know, all having their legs so high, for the first time I was able to lift my leg higher than I'd ever done it before, do turns, more turns than I'd ever done before. So it was really something that impacted me, and it was just something I didn't know that I needed to be surrounded by people that look like me, because in Sydney I was always only black person in almost every space that I was in, as far as dance training went anyway. So it really had a positive impact on me, and I took the style away, something that I wanted to continue, and it grew my passion for ballet specifically. Even though, you know, I continued with all the other styles, I was able to really find that love for ballet from that experience at the Ailey School. And then, you know, later on, I moved to London with my family, and I tried to find Horton classes. I trained as a teacher, and I ended up working in Q8. And again, I took that Horton style, that what I learned at the Ailey School, to Q8. And I remember choreographing a piece where they were wearing bomb brown skirts in different shades of earth tones. Nothing like Revelations, but you know, that the style and the energy and the impact has always stayed with me. And since returning from Q8, I felt inspired to start my own youth dance company, Artistry Youth Dance, to provide a similar space, a similar feeling that I felt when I was at the Ailey School, which they just embodied so well, and that is set the legacy of Ailey, having that space where people feel empowered to give their best, to have people that look like you to be represented. And I set up the Artistry Youth Dance organization for young Black dancers to help them have that space and to excel in a range of dance styles. And, you know, I remember the feeling that I had when I saw the Ailey Company for the first time. So when the Ailey Company came to London in 2019, I wanted to give as many young people that I worked with that same opportunity. And it was something that just came to me in the middle of the night, because we do group trips as well. I'm really keen to take them to the theatre. But usually it's kind of groups of 20 or so. And this time, when I learned that the Ailey Company was coming, I thought, why not take 100? Let's do it. Let's take 100 young Black dancers. So that's what I organised. And Heather was there as well. We ended up taking 125 young people. And actually, I've got some photos as well. I forgot about those. I'll show the first one, which is from my time training at Ailey when I was 18. There's me in the middle there in the black, and that's Matthew Rushing at the front, who was my teacher, who I just thought, oh, wow, he's a cool teacher. Little did I know, or probably may he not know, that, you know, he's now the Associate Artistic Director of the Ailey Company. So it was such a privilege to work with him. And then I met him many years later at a conference in America, and he gave me his business card and said that they were coming to London and that I should contact him. So I've got his business card, and when they were coming to London, I did contact him, and we organized some workshops. So it kind of brings together the theme that the Ailey talked about. So if you go to the second picture of the past, the present, and the future. So that was my past. This is the present, working with the young people. We had 125 go to watch the live Ailey performances, many for their first time, and they were just speechless at, you know, at seeing such outstanding dance on stage. Matthew Rushing and Jeroboam Bozeman then did a workshop for the young people. So we had 65 young people in the workshops. We were then invited by Dance Consortium to take part in a masterclass and a workshop with another youth dance company, Impact Dance. And they taught the piece that features in the documentary, Lazarus by Rennie Harris. So it's kind of, I feel I'm quite connected there in a lot of ways. So that's the last slide. They learnt Lazarus, and then as a kind of treat, Matthew Rushing taught them a section of Revelations, which is what you can see here. So it was kind of my past and the experience, the present with the current generation, bringing them in to learn about Ailey, which, you know, many of them hadn't seen or even heard of before, and sharing that passion with them. And then the future, obviously, for me would be to then take the young people to New York to carry on that legacy. So taking on that global connection from Sydney to Kuwait to London, and hopefully to New York in the future. So that is my experience of Alvin Ailey and the Ailey Company. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kamara. Thank you, all of you, for sharing that. And now I'm just going to bring Ianthe and Bafana forward to ask you all one of our key provocations. So in watching the film, we've been able to see, my team and I, we've been able to see a preview of the film. There's many, many themes that have come forward, some key themes, and we wanted to present or to ask our panelists some of those key questions. So for the two of you, in the film, we do witness Ailey finding his voice and maintaining it as the company progressed and obviously became an international staple in the dance world. So for the two of you, as someone who is trained in the school, how has this legacy impacted your artistry and how you continue your practice in general?
Ladies first?
Okay, I'm happy to go first, yeah.
Oh no, it's me, I'll go. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, I went first last time. You go first.
Yeah, I'll go. Yes, yes, I mean, it's a really great question. Let me just get myself into it a bit more. I think being surrounded by an energy of the African Americans, especially being at Ailey, really helped me find myself in a way, or really kind of made me realize that I belong. And I think that was the impact that I got from the Ailey and going from the Ailey school, was the importance of finding your own voice and really sitting firmly in your own voice and understanding more about your culture as well. Interesting enough, being at Ailey made me connect more with my African aspects, my culture, my dance culture, my history. And it was in there that I had to find that impact or that influence. And that influence in a way has continued into how I have presented myself as a performing artist and continually into my teaching artist as well. And the idea of constantly evolving and not staying the same and not being boxed in one area. Because if you can listen, if you saw Ailey, the documentary, he runs away from that idea of being kind of pushed into an area of why he needs to be a certain way. And I think it's exactly what I kind of got out of it, out of the States and out of America, was the ability to kind of sit in your own cultural expression and evolve and constantly push the boundaries of your own artistic expression. And unfortunately, you're not always going to be surrounded by the right place and the right people to do that, or the opportunities to do that as well. So the struggle is that. The struggle is always finding a place where you can really do that, because in many ways, Ailey dealt with a lot of those issues where people wanted to put him in a certain place. And even now, that stereotype is still in today's expression. When you're a Black artist, you're expected, especially African, you're expected to be a certain way. You know, you're expected not to embrace your classical, your jazz, and your African or your contemporary. You are always kind of like, as me, it's always like, Bafana, can you do an African piece? But no, sometimes I want to do a dance piece. Can you give me a moment to do a dance piece to express that? And I think that is what I have taken from Mr. Ailey, is the constant changing, the constant challenging yourself as an artist, whether you're working with somebody from South America or somebody from the United States themselves or Africa, but it's about really never feeling comfortable, constantly pushing that boundary. And I do that I've done that in my art history. I felt like that gave me more opportunity to kind of explore and not be certain, or I'm gonna be this kind of a dancer or this kind of a dancer. I was constantly exploring all options when I was in the States, and I feel like that option and that legacy from the college, from the school, is what is making me move further into this world of teaching as a teaching artist now, is to embody that and pass it on to the next generation. And obviously, eventually, my goal is to land up in South Africa and end up expressing that as well there. But I find the dancing is a language of, it's a language that anybody can understand. And through Ailey, I felt like that passion can break any stereotype, any boundaries that are out there. And for me, that's what I tend to do with it as I move forward into my teaching experiences. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. And for you, Ianthe?
I just needed a second. I was like taking all that in. That's, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's because a lot of the things that you said in your initial presentation, a lot of the things I felt. The first time I went into, it was the new school that I went to though, on 55th and 10th, and it felt like home. And I'd never been in a dance space, like a ballet, contemporary, modern dance space that felt like home. And I just remember my first day I walked in, it was Milton Myers, he was teaching a class, which when you were talking, I was like, this is so weird, there's all these things. And then Judith Jameson came in and stood in the corner. And it was like this radiating energy, but I've had like dance presence, like dance royalty presence be in the space before. And the energy has never been so warm and so like empowering and so supportive and incredible. And obviously I've taken another quote from the documentary that ties into this. Judith said that when Alvin Ailey was in the room, you felt safe enough to extend, to feel, and to explore. And for me, that's what I got when I was retraining my body to dance again. Whereas I'd come from like modern dance degree in London, which was movement for movement's sake. I've been told to minimize myself, told not to show off anymore, like to be this like robot. And then I was like completely clean slate because after the car accident, everything was just not working like it used to. And I was retraining at Ailey, and I think my main thing coming back to dancing was being too scared that my body wouldn't handle things or my back would spasm. But I was in this space that just felt safe. So I was pushing myself. I can't remember who said it, to do more turns. My leg was going higher than it's ever gone. And this is coming out of not being able to dance or properly walk without pain for like 2 years. So for me, I'm going to steal something you said already, learning how to be big and be grand in everything I do. That's really come from, like, whether I'm teaching, whether I'm speaking, whether I'm walking down the street. Honestly, anything and everything that I do, I've like really learned from my training and from being in this space that just felt safe. Safe to really like not necessarily redefine who I am, but to keep evolving, as you said. Like I always knew Horton, I always knew ballet, but I was doing it from a space of passion. I was allowed to put my passion in, whereas my training, a lot of it, I've been told to take the passion out. And I was told that was the problem and that I needed to dial myself down. So for me, it was just really finding, I'm basically just going to say everything that you said, how to evolve and maintain my passion in everything I do. I love that we've had like really similar experiences, but that's what it was. And watching, I'm not going to lie, so on Monday, I realized it was already available in America. I've already watched it 3 times. And every time I've gotten something new out of it. And it embodies that feeling of every time I walk into the studio and take class at Ailey or I see them on stage. I hope that answered the question.
It did. It definitely did. And thank you both. I think what really resonates is that no matter what generation you come from, we've all had, and I say we because I've had the exact same experience. We all had that universal experience of like being able to expand ourselves and feeling safe to do so with these artists and those key people from the company, and it really changing, impacting how you teach and how you continue on. And it gives you sort of a foundation for how you want to work and how you want to create spaces for others and to continue passing that on along the different generations that come behind us. So I think that's really, really it demonstrates the impact that one man, one company has had across generations of artists and will continue to have across the different generations of artists. And it's like that everyone, when you say Milton Myers, if you've had him, you have the same reaction. You know, he's one of my mentors as well. He's the reason why I teach Horton, the reason why I teach the way that I do. And it's because of what was set up from Mr. Ailey in that studio and how he wants you to evoke the work and include that passion in what you do. So thank you very much, both of you, and our other panelists. I'm gonna hand it over to Mercy now for our next provocation.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, I thank you so much for sharing that. So far, it's been kind of very inspirational in terms of what you've pulled out from what your experience. So I just want to say a couple of things. Obviously, I've also watched the film. I think now I've watched it twice. So it's really good. And I want to watch more. And every time you see, you get to, you watch it, you see more. And a couple of words that stand out for me, somebody said, sometimes your name becomes bigger than yourself. And then there was a moment where Rennie Harris was kind of one of the younger choreographers, says, how do you take a 60-year legacy and choreograph Ailey in a contemporary context? And then he said, memory is the anchor. So there's so much richness without being a spoiler for everybody. I think this film is just incredible and it's very, very inspirational. So we're moving on to our next provocation, which I will pose to Hopal and Kamara. The Alvin Ailey American Dance Theatre has a global reputation for creating an immersive, embodied experience through dance. What does this mean for the Black dance sector development here in the UK and for you as a creative? Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I just unmuted just by accident. I wasn't sure. It's really funny because I'm not really, I don't consider myself a creative. Well, I am a creative, but in a slightly different way. But Kara, I can't wait to hear what you got to say, because obviously there's a kind of big expansion in your answer, which hopefully I might set it off. I think it's really interesting though, because obviously I've come through quite a long journey from my teenage years. And just also to say, another teacher that influenced was Luis Gonzalez. So he worked with the Trista Company, and it was him who kind of took me aside and said, get on that playing girl and go, right? But in terms of the body, for me, when I think about the kind of the global reputation that Ailey has, the thing that jumped out for me when you're talking about the body as a site of history, and certainly that has been the case for Ailey, because when he talks about his historical experiences, it resonates with quite a lot of the diaspora, or quite a lot of the world in terms of, that lived experience as well. So that's something to kind of put it as a framework. And I think when I think about the global reputation, for me, it used to be me over here and what was happening over there, but actually the world is actually a much smaller place. So in terms of that reputation, it's just testament to the work that he did with all of his touring and the work that he did in terms of that global reach. And another thing for me in terms of the sector is something that Bill T. Jones said about Ailey finding his form. And the finding of the form was really powerful for me, because it also touches on something that Bafana said earlier about always putting this particular framework, this particular box to kind of produce work. But then as dancers and for the Black dance sector, we're more than just that. And I think it's just about changing that mindset and changing that framework and changing that paradigm to really understand that the global impact, I mean, the global kind of starts in terms of our bodies and how we express ourselves, but in terms of how the sector, and I think London is UK, obviously, because I'm here now, and it's nice to move back to that, because it definitely wasn't like that when I was growing up, that the sector has changed for, I think with the advent of technologies and things like that stuff, we're more visible, we're more global in terms of our embodied experiences, and it's really encouraging to see younger dancers and also dancers certainly of my age just making that reach and just and having Ailey as that kind of foundation upon which to launch themselves really. And I think, you know, definitely the Ailey as a brand was bigger than the man, but I think the man was bigger than the actual brand of Ailey, if I kind of flip it around. Because I think everybody just, if you just mention his name, somebody has got some kind of shared or connected experience. I mean, I don't know if I'm rambling a bit, but it's such a big topic that could certainly go on into another tangent, and to try and encapsulate it within a few short sentences is a little bit small, so I'll keep it small right there, and I'm sure there would be other experiences. Yeah.
Thank you, Hopal. Thank you, Hopal. You weren't rambling at all, because we could go on forever to talk about Ailey and the company, and you know, every time they come here, they fill up the space, and so hopefully the film will also bring lots of people to experience. Kamara.
Thank you. Yes, a very broad question, but I think one of the key things that you mentioned, Mercy, is memories. And I think that's something that really kind of brings the global connection, and what gives it such a global impact is because people can feel the memories that he tells in every piece. He embeds himself within the piece, and it's something that resonates with each person. Even though it's a very unique story to him, I think the global success is because everybody can feel something from these stories, from themselves. They're universal themes at the end of the day. So I think that's something that can impact the Black dance sector, as you know, Hopal said and Bafana said. You know, sometimes we are put into a box, but I think if people draw on their own memories or do what is passionate for them, then that is the way to share with others and to really connect with others, doing what means something to you. And it might not necessarily be something that fits into a box or that's stereotypical or expected of you. When you do what you feel is your passion, then that's what speaks to your audiences and is going to create a global connection. So I think that's the impact that I would hope that it would have for the Black dance sector and for the UK dance sector, that desire or that ability to not be in a box and to really be able to do what speaks to you personally as a creative, or speaks to me as a creative, and that I can just share my passion and allow that to resonate with whoever takes something from that story. So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, thank you, Kamara. That's well said. And if you are also, I think it's just so hard to explain the feeling that you get when you're watching this. I mean, I didn't do any of that training, but the impact on me, somebody coming from Uganda and coming here in the UK and all that, trained differently, trained in traditional African dance and you know, kind of the modern dance there. There is something magical that you take out and carry on, and it gets you going and going every time. So I think this is, you know, it's so wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Again, I'm going to pull a couple of words before I hand over to Heather, things that resonated and that I liked from the film and the Q&A actually, which was there. The embodied experience, that is, Revelations is a classic example. It's a reenactment of life, you know, the church, the process, the fluidity, all of that. So, you know, you kind of clearly see it from the archives that were pulled out and everything. And also Ailey's commitment for searching for the truth in movement resulted in pioneering and enduring choreography that centers on African-American experience. But, you know, it's the experience of the Black person. So, you know, there's a quote where he says, "You came here to be entertained, but I had to tell my truth," because as a choreographer, as a creator, I think you need to be pulling from the experiences around you and everything that's happening in order to tell your story in the best possible way. So over to you, Heather, in terms of, I think we're going to open up the space now for other people to say something, and I hope you can show your faces.
Yes, so thank you, panelists, for your experiences and for sharing and answering our provocations. I do now want to open it out to the audience to add any comments or to speak to the panelists and ask them questions directly. So you can put them in the chat box, or you can use the raise hand function, and we will bring you forward to speak with our panelists. So yes, I see one hand, bring you forward. Daryl, yes, if you would unmute yourself and go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for the ones who so passionately shared your experience of being in the school and working with these amazing people. I was very fortunate enough to be able to see the film. The first 2/3 of it was not a surprise to me, because I think I thought I knew a lot about Ailey. I've worked with Miss Jefferson quite a lot, and I've had a long working relationship with Francesca Harper, who is now the artistic director of the Third Company. She's made 2 pieces for my company. We've hung out, and there's a lot in there that I knew already. It was very nice to hear, but the last third was quite chilling, actually, because, and I think that is maybe the fantastic thing about the movie. We know all of the good stuff, and there has been so much about Ailey that was not talked about. The lonely man, the man facing the emptiness at the end of his life and not feeling like he belonged to the community, as Bill T. Jones then said, and being left out. The question of, was he on one hand sort of like a token form of, well, we're not really racist, and that is sort of like something that was in the room. It was in the movie, and it got me thinking about it. And I spoke with a colleague who was also a student at the Ailey School in the time of Miss Judith Jameson, not Miss Jefferson. And it was something that nobody knew how to address. The huge white elephant in the room, the huge black elephant in the room. And I thought it was really beautiful the way the movie did it, also visually, to have all these sequences going backwards. I was like, what the hell is going on? Is life not what I understand it to be? Something is not quite right with this picture. And then you had these very candid, very honest, fighting back tears and talking about the loss that was connected with the AIDS, the good artistic people falling apart, falling out of this earth, and having to hold on to something else. And then maybe in this point, I start thinking of a different kind of spirituality that is concerned with him and his work. And I just thought that was like an incredibly disturbing, beautiful, disturbing. It got me engaged. It got me even more interested in understanding maybe also myself. You know, this thing of from where you come from. Sometimes you don't think you really deserve to have done what you did, but you did it. And sometimes it puts you in a very lonely place. And I don't know if anybody had any kind of resonance to that. But that was for me the sort of like turning point of the movie, and which is why I would really like to go back and listen to every single one of those testimonies from his friends, from his colleagues, from himself towards the latter part of his life. I feel enriched that I've watched it, but I couldn't help after feeling like, wow, okay, I didn't know that.
Thank you, Daryl. Did any of you want to speak to that moment?
I think for me, I knew that was happening. And certainly as a student, because, and I like the way you said, Daryl, talking about the elephant in the room, it definitely was a presence. And with all the warmth that he had and his graciousness, there was definitely a sadness. But I think he was quite sort of stoic in terms of, you know, obviously when you're in the studio, he has to keep the company running as well. So that's definitely, and I'm grateful for the film to actually show that side. And I think it just shows that kind of conundrum of the artist being in that really lonely space and not being able to, I mean, it's a shame that we couldn't reach out to him, but maybe that was his choice, just to keep his life quite separate from the studio. And, you know, yeah, it's really good to kind of acknowledge that as well. Yeah, definitely I was aware of it. Definitely when he was very well.
Yeah, just want to throw back in, you know, if one avoids saying these things, I think it also almost kind of like makes his achievement slightly less. And then knowing that what this was going on, it makes his achievement even a hell of a lot more. I mean, you understand, you get a different kind of a depth to it.
Yes, thank you, Daryl, for that. We're gonna call now Greta to come forward.
Interesting point, Daryl, but that's a big conversation because, as Hopal says, that's a tragedy of far too many artists. And even those who are alive today, people don't want to see. They only want to see the better side of it. I haven't seen the film, but that is actually true now. And we need to begin to recognize that in the people around us. Anyway, what I wanted to say was, I was very fortunate. I was training at London Contemporary in the 70s and no longer wanted to dance because, like Ianthe and all of this, suddenly I was in a world I did not know. But Ailey and William Luther got me back dancing. But I happened to be, when you went to Sadler's Wells in the 70s, the walls were vibrating when Ailey was there. The walls of Sadler's Wells, people did not want to leave the building. The endless encores, the thunderstorms afterwards, everything was echoing it. I was very fortunate to be able to sit in Judah Jameson's dressing room and look at her dress, and she threw coins around the floor and all of that. I happened to have met Ailey on the staircase in the old Sadler's Wells, and it was all narrow, windy, and concrete. And of course, I was so panicked. I was going, my God, you've got my heart. He said, babe, I don't want your heart. I want your soul. I said, you got it. You definitely got my soul. But one of the things that's actually very important in all artists that impact on our lives, that we end up saying, I am, he came out of that Black Power movement where everybody was pushing and expanding and saying, these are not the limitations. So he was a child, that's why it says, and I think it says it in the opening brief, where he speaks about his community. And that's why it will have a global reach, because when you speak about the struggles of human beings, the churches were central in the struggles of the Black Power liberation. It was a time when, so I think as dancers, as creators, we also have to look, and there are lessons inherent in there. What does our society really want to speak about? What's the heart? What's the guts? What's the ugliness? What's the beauty? Yeah. And I think Bafana is speaking about that because he's recognizing how he can use anything and everything to express what is going on in his society and that volatility. So he came out of that. That's why that tree was able to bloom and blossom and touch humanity, because in the 60s and 70s, it was very volatile. You know, people were protesting on the streets. So it was very active politically, globally, and saying, we cannot take this anymore. So Ailey's work spoke very much. So that's why I think Shakespeare said, when you speak your truth, your human truth, you will touch the hearts all over. But if you try to touch the whole world, you cannot. You've got to go for that. And that's what he did. And he was also influenced by Catherine Dunham, Pearl Primus. So all of those things, yeah? So he wasn't in isolation. But as Daryl said, one of the tragedies, William Luther as well, was pushed into the abattoir. Nobody wanted to see his pain at all. And yet he gave so much, you know. So that's what I just have to touch on, as we say, because of timing. I just need to say that because we've got to look at what was happening, the context out of which an Ailey emerged.
Yes, thank you, Greta. Did anyone want to add anything further from the panel?
I'll just add that, you know, watching the documentary, all those points that you mentioned, Greta, they really bring that up using the archives. I really enjoyed how they linked that the Black Power movement, the Black Panthers, the political issues, and how he was political in his dance. It comes across in the documentary, and you know, there's a lot of archival footage which really just shows, gives you a sense, me not having lived in that time, to get a true experience of that time, you know. So that's something that I really enjoyed about it, and you just vocalized that so well. So yeah, so I would have to agree with that, and they do show that really well in the documentary, that the political elements, the story, the history, and what was happening at the time.
I think to also draw on what Dara said, though, I find it really interesting how they spoke about the stigma of AIDS, and how Ailey was so outspoken when it came to like talking about what's going on in the community for Black people, and how his work on stage was his protest. And then I'm really glad that it highlighted just how much everyone looked down upon dancers if they had AIDS, and no one would talk about it, and they were really trying to minimize that. So I think it kind of, both of what you said kind of ties in the sense that I didn't know that was what happened and what was going on back then, but it's just really interesting to see Ailey, who was so like, it's so well outspoken, and so he really embodied things that were going on in the world, and like that was how he spoke about it. But then it's just so, it was so, for me, really harrowing to know that that was something that he had to completely hide against, and so many people that we lost, and so many people would have been feeling that exact shame, but other things they were able to at least be outspoken about. Yeah, that was my really big takeaways from the that final part of the movie.
Thank you, Greta. Next we have Erin Sanchez coming forward. Thank you, Erin.
Hi. I just wanted to share something from my experiences training at the Ailey School in the early 2000s. I think a couple of things stuck with me that really, I think, resonate in some of the other things that Bafana has said and Hopal has said. There was a hunger and a joy and this most incredibly intense community in that school. And I'd never experienced that before anywhere else that I had trained. And it was also the first place that, as a dancer, I ever had access to a full-time nutritionist, a full-time physiotherapist, and those people were specifically there for us to get better as dancers. And that was a really powerful message to every person in that school, that they were being offered that support. They were valuable as human beings as well as dancers. And I think that was really underscored actually by the way that the company looked at that time, which is that people stayed in the company for years and years and years. And as they continued in their time in the company, they were more respected. They were more popular. People wanted to see them dance even more. And that was incredible because those people were valued not only for their dancing abilities, for their bodies, but also for their embodied knowledge, for their history, for what they could bring, their experience to the stage. And the experience of watching a 60-year-old person on stage doing revelations, a 90-year-old person on stage doing revelations, it just made your heart tear in two because they had so much to give. And it just made me think about how valuable they obviously were. They were not disposable commodities. They were not just the next beautiful body. They were human beings and they had a story to tell. And I just think that was the most incredible thing. And I think that was Ailey's legacy, is that he valued people and he wanted those stories to be told. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because it really changed my life.
Thank you, Erin. Any of the panelists or anyone else in the audience want to speak to that?
Well, can I go?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to just pin on that, is that what was also great about being at Ailey with and like that legacy of seeing an experienced dancer on stage. Like, who was it? I think now it's like Linda Celeste Smith at the moment is one of the oldest dancers at the moment. And I remember showing a video of Ailey to my students, and kind of like, even her on the screen, it's not the real thing. We're not watching it on the real thing, but that experience itself was oozing out of the screens itself, and the dancers could see. And when I tell them that she was actually even older than me, and they were quite shocked about that dedication. And I think that's what we're losing a lot of at the moment. There's no that sense of dedication and longevity and looking after your body, and we tend to be very disposable now. We get rid of things very quickly. We don't hold on to that beauty of legacy. And it's a beautiful thing to hear it mentioned again here. And I find that the idea of what I got from the video, from the Ailey and also the documentary, and they mentioned it at the beginning about his memories, the memories of community. And I think that is what was evident for me, and that was evident with the Ailey School and the Ailey Company, is that they were a family, they were a community, they were working together, they were lifting each other. When somebody has fallen, there was somebody that will be there to kind of lift you up, and they were supportive of each other, which is one of the things that I find is missing, especially in London. It's absolutely missing, that we don't have that anchor of community, of having a place to push the legacy forward. That knowledge that you had received from, for example, people like at Ailey School and all of that. I find that ideally very important, that we need to kind of like build something that is looking after, just like how they do it at the Ailey, just how they see, you see the human experience, and you get to be given the human experience. You know, when somebody's not well, they get to be given the opportunity to speak and to be listened to and to express themselves. And then Ailey got that as well. And it was a shame that, obviously, I feel like with the AIDS epidemic at that time, I feel like maybe there was no strong community for him, or a visible community at that time that could really support him if he had to step out and say, I'm a gay man and I'm Black. And on top of it, I have AIDS. You know, that there was no platform like we have now. So I think that cements on the most important thing for me, which is that platform and that community, which for him in his company was all about that. It was what his memories were. And that's how he built the company, and the school runs like that. And I think it's a shame that at the end, the sickness, he had no community, even though most of it was all about that idea of community and helping each other. But thank you. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. And thank you, Erin, for the passionate experience that you shared with us. Thank you. Next, I'm gonna bring forward Patrick Parson, calling in from Canada.
Yeah, yes. I mean, the film and the documentary and the journey it takes of Ailey, you know, it's kind of saddening to the extent, because in 1984, you know, my company that I came from Trinidad, we were traveling and going to perform in New York, and we met him in Atlanta airport, and you know, the director said, this is Alvin Ailey. And when you met him at that time, I couldn't fathom why he looked so lonely, you know. And it was the time that the company, the people who run the company was getting him, was kind of getting him out of the company, you know. So when we talk about community, I'm thinking that You know, even though he built all this community around him, when he needed the community, it wasn't there for him. You know, so that's the sad part of it for me. And that we, as company leaders or the flag bearers of Blacks in Dance and moving away, taking all the information from the 50s and 60s and 70s of all the uprising, how do we continue to support the ones that really give us the energy to move forward? And how do we continue building that? Because he is not the only one who went through stuff like that. You know, I am a family also of the Dunham family, and same thing with her. In her times of need, the community, I mean, she had a few people around her, but the larger community that they both affected and affected was not there to support them in the actual time of need. And how do we move forward with all this knowledge that we have, and that the world is not as distant as before, right? And we are more connected. How do we what kind of platform and structure do we going to put together to support the people that needs that support as we move forward, regardless of their gender or the preferences or the ailment? You know, knowing that Mr. Ailey was so secretive. I wouldn't say secretive because Carmen de Lavilla knew, you know, apart from his dance partner, knew his life, right? You know, and how they move forward. And then at the end, he had no support. You know, like in the end, he had no support. And so how do we fix that? You know, how do we go away and put things in place to fix that, you know, regardless of where we are in the world? Because now with this technology where we can sit and talk as a group of people, you know, put the things, the mindfulness and the healing so that we can support the people that needs the support. And that's what I want to say, because it was very sad for me seeing him in 1984 and knowing his name is that big, you know, I mean, it's bigger than a person, you know, and then you see this man there looking lost, very lost. It was very, very heart-striking at that time for me. And I just want to say to all of us, how do we build on that so that these things don't happen to our leaders and our flag bearers and our legacy bearers as we move forward? That's what I want to add.
Thank you, Patrick. Is there anyone that wants to kind of speak about how they build communities in their work? Kamara?
Well, I think, you know, what you mentioned, it's so important. And, you know, obviously at that time, I think it also speaks about the impact of the AIDS epidemic as well. It was just so, how it was marketed as something to be scared of. So people were really scared of it at that time. You know, now what is so positive is for young people is they're a lot more aware of mental health. We all talk about it a lot more. There's a lot more resources and things available for our current generation. And you know, you said the flag bearers. So I think the fact that we're talking more about mental health, you know, Erin mentioned that there are health things available, our practitioners, our nutritionists, there's just so many more resources. And as you said, we're connected on a world level, on a global level. So hopefully that's something that will make people feel more comfortable to have access to resources, because it's really about access, isn't it? So if we teach our young people that it's okay to speak about things, when you have issues, it's okay to talk about it, to give the support, to provide easy access to the people that they need to speak to, and to not kind of carry on the old image of dancing and just dancing when whether you're injured, whether you're not injured, which is something that many of us have grown up with. So I think building that ability and that it's okay to speak about something is going to support our flag bearers, as you said, and is going to hopefully mean that we don't have to suffer things in silence, and that if we do have issues that we can connect with the community that we're pouring so much into. So that's what I think is hopefully different today, and we're seeing it play out, you know, with the current world and how it's impacting us all, and especially young people. They're just a lot more aware of mental health and how to kind of manage it with tactics and mindfulness, as you said.
One thing I think I see in America as well, I guess due to social media, is there's a lot more access to people. And I think with that, it also humanizes people. So when someone will say, like, I'm struggling or ask for help, I feel like because there's no longer, people aren't put on a pedestal in the same way, because you could never really talk to anyone or really have access to anyone or what's going on in their lives. I'm hoping that the one slightly positive thing about social media is that it allows people to see people as actual people, instead of just people that they, like a service that they will provide, that they will take the dance community forward, or they'll do this or do that. People are starting to actually see that people are real. And conversations that I noticed that were happening over the past couple of years in quarantine, I think started to kind of, in America, I've noticed especially, and in the commercial dance communities for sure, there's been a lot more honest conversations about things that people have been struggling with or needing to tackle, or just hard conversations happening. So I see that happening over here. I haven't seen that so much in the contemporary world, but in the commercial dance industry, that's definitely happening. And I've seen it due to, like, the one good thing about social media.
Oh. Yeah, I just wondered, just going back to something that Patrick Parson said about how do we fix this, and I know that, and it's really good that we've got the kind of beauty of technology that we can connect with, and there's a lot of information out there. But as he was talking, I was just thinking about our dance elders, because we do invest a lot in young people, and rightly so. But I think you should also acknowledge who was before, which is probably why I spent a lot of time that I did have with the mentors that I knew, who, you know, who had this decades and decades of knowledge. But it's just about, maybe, I don't know how it would look like, I don't know what it will look like. It's just something just to put out there, to think about acknowledging our dance elders, because they're the ones that kind of, they started that blueprint for us. Like, for instance, I can think of people who've transitioned now and they've left a body of knowledge. All that information has gone with them. And how do we recapture those? I mean, I have nothing against young people, that's fine, because I've got children myself, and I want to invest in them, because obviously I'm, you know, I'm the legacy that's coming behind me, but it's those ones currently who've come before me. And it's really sad about Catherine Dunham, because I know that in terms of what Mr. Ailey did for her, there was a season called The Magic of Catherine Dunham back in the, and I don't know if people, I don't know if you were there, so I certainly was there, and I can tell you, he really paid homage to her, as you know, in terms of her dance memory, by documenting our shared history, not just from the recent times, but going back generations and generations, and also within the diaspora, in terms of keeping that knowledge that was brought over, particularly from, if you go back as far as the continent, and how it's embodied and kept in our bodies to this day. So I don't know what that would be in terms of going forward for fixing that, because there are a lot of dance elders out there, and I'm maybe pushing into that realm as well, but it's just thinking about investing in them, so that, you know, you have that, I'm not saying it's be a repository of dance films and things, but just having those conversations. And because we always talk about young people, great, but you know, I don't move as much, but I can still move, but it's just kind of keeping that movement alive. So you see that our bloodline through hundreds of years is still coming through, and is still just as vibrant. So I just leave it out there.
Thank you, Hopal. I think this is so rich, and I just want to remind people that this is the beginning of a conversation. It's a movement and something that we need to take forward. carry on, speak with our friends and continue in the regions as well. So, you know, we need to create a ripple effect in terms of this, because this is important. It's a film, it's a person, it's a company, but it's actually our lives, our creations and our things. So we have 3 people who have put their hands up. I've got Bahrain. I think I'll invite Bahrain first, and then Caroline, and then H. We've got 7 minutes to finish, but I don't know whether people might want to have 5 more minutes extra. It's just beginning. The conversation is just beginning. So over to you, Bahrain. You're muted. Oh, what's happening? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, unmute.
Oh, you're muted. That's it. Yes.
Yeah. I'm originally from Zimbabwe. I never knew Alvin Ailey. I knew Phoenix. So Phoenix was my Alvin Ailey. So when I came to join, my inspiration was to work with Phoenix. And now coming to England, I was introduced to Alvin Ailey. And it was like, oh, so Alvin Ailey and Phoenix, American Alvin Ailey, Phoenix, this is incredible. How do I do that? How can I be just as creative as a person? I said, the basics of how you're gonna do that is you have to create something that you want to be in. So I want to be, what do you call it? I want to, if it's not me, I want to join, I want to audition for that company. That is my company. So how do I do that? How do I, how do I attract myself? I'm talking to myself. How do I attract myself for me to be able to join the company I am creating?
Mm.
So that's when Alvin Ailey comes in. I've always wanted to join Alvin Ailey, and I'm scared. I was, I've joined Phoenix. Now I've got Tawaziva Dance. So it's the same, somebody was saying you have to think really much, you have to think really big for that to work. You cannot just make stuff up as you go. You have to have an ambition. So for me, Alvin Ailey is my ambition. For me, Phoenix is my ambition. For me, Tawaziva Dance is my ambition. So I've learned a lot from Alvin Ailey. That's why Tawaziva is there. It's a black company. It doesn't matter what color you are. It is a black company.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Bahrain. That's really thoughtful. Yeah, I see Ianthe clapping there. That's good. Let's go over to, I know that, you know, because of time, I'm not going to ask the panel to speak now, but I think let's go to Caroline and then H, and then you can open it up again in terms of people's responding.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, Caroline.
Yeah, I went to see the film. So I saw the film yesterday. I had the theatre all to myself. So I'm in Blackpool. So in a way that was really sad and incredibly lonely. And sometimes that's I think what it feels like in terms of being away from everyone and away from everything. And what struck me certainly right from the beginning of the film was just Alvin Ailey describing his journey with his mother in search of a place to be. I think as artists, I think our dance careers and our dance journeys are looking for a place to be. I know lots of people who are on this call either worked with or trained with some of those people. So influences like the Louis Gonzalez, Catherine Dunham, Bill as well, Bill Luther, have all had influence, and I totally echo the need for us to show more respect and take proper care of our elders in terms of moving forward, and the richness that they have in terms of their vocabulary and their history, what they can share with us, and therefore what we can do moving forward. But I think I saw Ailey in Paris when I was in tour, I think in the 90s. And then read his book, Revelations. Someone gave me Revelations, the autobiography. So lovely to see in the film that lots of that was echoed, but also the revelations within the film in terms of the secrets that, you know, he had to bear, the secrets that he had to go through his dance career with, which totally would have had a sort of complete influence on what he did and how he did it. But I think in search of that place to be, maybe manifesting itself now in the company, in the organization, in the education, and moving things forward for the future. And just lovely to hear everyone's stories of how they got there, all so different, but so rich and inspiring. So thank you. That's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. I can thank you for going to see Ailey as well, Blackpool. I got a caption of you know, your tickets. Thank you. And I can see here that Sinibaldi also felt the same. He went to see it in Bath from Bristol, where it was not screened. There were 5 in a very big room. So this is one of the things that we're trying to do to push forward. I mean, the film is screening in the small cinemas across the UK. We've got a list of that, just reminding you, a list of where the screenings are going to happen. So it would be great if you can spread the word and talk about it. We will certainly be spreading the word. Yes, Jess, thank you. We've got that in the chat room now. And we need to spread the word more, and we need more people to see this. So the screening is going to happen until February. So and then there is also the on demand, which is Dogwoof on demand. So we can see that you don't have to go anywhere, just be in the home and do that. Okay, let's invite H. Patton.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. It's really fantastic to see so many faces, old and new, and many that I haven't seen for a long time. So that's really fantastic. But I think there were a number of things that came up whilst people were talking that resonated with me. Number one, when we talk about community and Alvin Ailey is being part of a community, but also towards the end isolated from the community and thing, it kind of resonated in that we see this repeated over and over, because when I can't think about Alvin Ailey without thinking about Arthur Mitchell, and then I have to think about Rex Nettleford and NDTC and all of these major figures who have contributed so much to the world of dance. When you think Berta Posuka, all of these people, but it's almost as if history repeats itself with all of them, because even recently we lost another major figure in terms of dance here in the UK, in terms of Jackie Guy. And I know that many of these figures, at one point, everybody knew who they were, what they were doing. They were waiting to hold on to their coattails. But then when they kind of move from out of the spotlight and start to take roles that put them into the background, people tend to forget about them. And so their legacy, their history isn't searched out and documented to the level that they should be until when they've gone. And then it's too late. We realize that we've lost our history books. And so I think it's very important that we find a way around that. Ianthe Mellors, she actually spoke about young people being able to connect and use social media in order to keep visibility, etc. But then for some of the elders, that isn't a possibility for some of them, because the technology, to keep up with technology. If I get to be honest myself, I put up my hand 3 times before I was given a chance to speak now. And I thought to myself, oh, well, maybe they're vetting who it should be. When I realized I was putting up the clap instead of raising the hand. And so even me, I'm not the eldest one in the profession, but even me, sometimes I have issues with the technology as well. And so, yes, we have to find ways and means in which we can document the lives and the histories of those whose shoulder we stand on. But as Ianthe said also, we need to find ways in which the young people who are coming up, it's important to ground them in that knowledge as well. And it's important to make the connection between the two. I've just done a project in Sierra Leone where we've got young people actually going out and interviewing the elders, talking to them, sharing ideas with the elders, so that there's this cross-pollination. And I think that would be part of what we need here. But remember, in terms of the family is everybody that is involved in dance. And so therefore, some of you, like I know the work that most of you do, but can you believe me? I'm an African dancer, trained in African and Caribbean dance, never trained in ballet and thing, but I'm telling you, one time I had the chance of meeting Alvin Ailey, was when the company came and performed in the UK here, and me was bold enough to go to the class and take in the class and watch them. Although that wasn't my language, they would have to literally tear and break me for me to be able to perform it. But I still recognize that as a dancer, I need to be in that space. I need to take the energy. And what has been spoken about by Bafana, where he speaks about this aura, you see throughout all of the great figures, Alvin Ailey, Arthur Mitchell, Barry Moncrief, Rex Nettleford, Sheila Barnett, all of these people had that air of grandeur about them. And so these are the things that shows us that when we are in full command of our instrument, the body, and we are fully confident in how we project and perform it, we can have a confidence, an air of grandeur about us, which is what we now have to make sure the young people see, learn, and take on board for themselves. Because of time, I'll just cut it short there. But just to say that it's a wonderful thing that this meeting is happening and we're having this discussion, and it's something that we need to continue. I can't wait to see the film. I didn't get the chance to see it beforehand. I really had wanted to see it, so I know what I'm talking about tonight. But I'm going to be seeing it very soon. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. So thank you so much, H, and thank you everybody who's spoken. We're running out of time and we're already going beyond the time that we said we're going to close. So this is a time for a call to action. And I just want to let people know, you know, if you haven't watched the film, watch the film, spread the word, share the links. If you want them, we can share them again. It's on social media everywhere. And we're asking you to join the Kauma Arts tribe as well via the website, because this is when we come together and start putting things, you know, kind of start talking about necessary things and connecting communities. And so I'm just going to ask our panelists to say 2 words as the last word for today, and then open up for, kind of invite Heather to do the thank yous and a photo call with Jess. I will start with Ianthe.
Sorry, is it me speaking?
Okay, Bafana, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So I don't wanna cut in or anything.
No, I just want 2 words from you.
2 words. You got 2 words. Let me see. Let me look through my notes. I want to say. I think the 2 words will be identity, sitting in our identity, and sitting strong in our voice as well. Will be another. I know they're sentences. They're not words, but
yeah.
But something of that, identity and voice will be my word. Thank you. And community, obviously.
Yes, thank you very much. So over to you, Ianthe.
I am.
Hey.
I think that's my, yeah.
Great, thank you. Hopal?
Investment in our elders, investment.
Thank you. And Kamara?
Memories and legacy.
Fantastic. Well, I'm not going to say it anymore. I'll hand over to Heather because this is so exciting. I could go on forever.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to the audience. It has been an amazing conversation, very inspiring, very heartwarming. And it's felt like home to talk about a company and a man that's had such a huge impact on all of our experiences in the dance world. We appreciate you guys taking the time to connect with us and share your own experiences as well. If you want to continue having conversations with each other, please feel free to add your contact details, social media handles, emails, all those things in the chat now. Feel free to add that or connect and message each other directly. I want to say again, special thank you to Bafana, Hopal, Ianthe, and Kamara for being part of tonight's panel. We also want to thank our partners, Dogwoof and Dark Matter, for bringing us on as Kauma Arts to lead on this event and to be part of the larger campaign to promote the film. As Mercy mentioned earlier, we want you guys to continue connecting. Please join our tribe, the Kauma Arts tribe. Tell your friends, share, tweet, post, WhatsApp, however you communicate. Let them know about your experience today. Tell them about the film. Go watch it again and again and again. And a massive thank you to my team, as always, for making tonight happen. Thank you all again. We hope you have a wonderful evening.
And before everyone goes,
we're going to have our
photo call. Please show your faces.
If everyone can turn on your camera so we can see your lovely faces, we're going to take a quick photo so we can share it. And I'll blank everyone's names out. But I would love to see everyone's faces if you're able to share. And I will be taking the photo. Oops, let me just set up my camera. All right, and in 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. And I hope you continue to connect. I hope you continue to spread the word. We have the hashtag, which is Ailey. Oh, Jess.
It's Ailey KBE. So hashtag Ailey KBE to share about this event, or to share the Ailey film, please use hashtag Ailey film.
Yes. And last but not least, I know, Michaela, you haven't said anything, but just great thank you to you because you reached out to all of us, lots of people, to spread the word within our communities. Michaela, you're behind the Dark Matter yeah. Thank you, everybody, and hope you have a lovely evening. and goodbye.